Hello and welcome to the final group stage World Cup edition of Somos Mas, your leader in United coverage, which we had a signing to, or United announced a signing today that we still need to talk about. But right now it's just World Cup, and we will get to a United podcast probably next week. But until then, we've got the final group stage day to talk about today. Um, Not quite as interesting as yesterday, but was still fun. Um, we've got the knockout round set. The bracket is set. It's time to pick your winners and move on from there. I know some of you might have been expecting Earl because we talked about Earl hosting. Earl had some stuff come up and couldn't make it, so you get me for a second day in a row. Most of you, I'm sure, will be excited about that. To the few that aren't, get over it. and but with that, let's start with today's action. I'm going to kind of go through today's action fairly quickly, and then we'll move on to the knockout round in the bracket, and we'll kind of break it down and go from there. It's going to be an exciting knockout round to say the least. So today we had in I liked the other one I had up better. Hold on, guys. Bear with me. I'm going to move to a different scoreboard. We had an eventful day to an extent. Two teams had already locked up their knockout round positions. Not positions, but spots at least. They were first. They ended up finishing first in their group, but it wasn't guaranteed going into the day. So Portugal and Brazil already had locked up. What am I trying to say? Had already advanced. Sorry, before today's match had even started, with winning their first two matches, and it led to some rotated squads a little bit, with both of those teams actually losing, but not in dominated. Like, they didn't get dominated. They were both fairly close. So over in Group G, we'll start there. We had Cameroon 1, Brazil 0. Brazil, like I said, had already locked up a spot, had nothing really to play for. They had a decent goal differential advantage over Switzerland. So even though Switzerland won today as well, 3-2 over Serbia, Brazil still locks up the one spot and will face South Korea. I don't know. I don't have my dates here. I had it all ready, and then I had to restart the computer. So let me get to that again, too.
How dare you, sir, not be prepared?
Oh, gosh. I was not looking at the screen, and I had no idea you were there. Ladies and gentlemen, Seth Bidoff has joined us. And excuse me while I go change my pants because I peed myself a little there. What's up, Seth? How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. So Group G, Cameroon 1, Brazil nothing, Switzerland 3, Serbia 2. What was some of the takeaways that you had from those matches, just off the top of your head there?
Honestly, I know Brazil rotated some people today. Brazil still didn't look great. I feel like Cameroon absolutely, took advantage of that opportunity. Now, they still didn't come out of the group, but against a weaker squad that Brazil threw out, I felt like, Cameroon did what they could.
Yeah. They still didn't score till extra time in the second half.
Yeah.
They were still outshot 21-7, out targeted, or shots on target were 7 for Brazil, 3 for Cameroon. Possession was 65 Brazil, 35 Cameroon. Yeah. So they were able to take advantage of it. I wouldn't say that it was overwhelming performance by them by any means against a semi-rotated Brazil squad.
Yeah, and even with the talent that Brazil threw out, I mean, it just, I don't know, they didn't. It didn't really look like they were pressing for anything.
Yeah.
which to me was kind of disappointing. I know they didn't need anything out of this today.
Right.
They didn't need a point, a draw, and they were in. Realistically, even if they lost, the chances of them going through were still pretty high. But
they had already guaranteed their spot to go through. So even if they lost by 6, they were still going to go through. It was first place or second place was all they had to determine.
And I know Brazil subbed in like Richarlison and some others late. Maybe not Richarlison. Rafinha came in. Marquinhos came in. Pedro came in. But they didn't look very good. Even though they dominated the stat line, Brazil just didn't look like they wanted this. They looked like they didn't care today. So,
well, a little sneaky thing about Brazil is they kind of haven't looked good at all.
That is true.
I mean, they've gotten 2 wins, but they've been kind of slow to get things going in both of those matches, and definitely looked like if their group was a little bit stronger, they could have been in some danger. But getting the wins against Serbia and Switzerland set them up nicely. They didn't have to worry about it, and we'll see if I think if I'm a Brazil fan right now, I'm thinking, man, I kind of wish we would have lost or drew one of those first 2 matches, so we would have had to play everybody today to try to find that top gear, because you can go through, a Premier League season without finding a top gear and just kind of scratching through victories.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can win the World Cup by doing that. I think you kind of have to find the highest gear that you can play, which is why like teams like United States, Japan, stuff like that, I'm not the chances of them winning this thing aren't nearly as high as a Spain or Brazil or France, something like that, because that top gear is something they can't get to, at least currently constructed. But this Brazil team has not found it, and I'm not sure they're going to. But if they are, they're going to need to find it fairly quickly with the knockout stage for them starting in just a few days.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. They've started slow in every single match. Fortunately, they're talented enough that they can kind of make up for that in the later stages, but now that you're here in the knockout round, the competition obviously is going to be significantly harder than when you're playing against clubs like Cameroon or, or Serbia. So it's a different level. Now, yes, all these teams qualify for the World Cup. Yes, they're all good in their own right. But, I mean, there's a difference when you're playing, Portugal or, Uruguay compared to, Serbia.
Right.
But yeah, they have to find a way to get things going a lot sooner in matches. And it's not even necessarily they're coming out flat; they're just not putting it together. They're not finding that next gear,
right,
and taking advantage of the opportunities that they're given early on. So, if they can figure that out, I think they'll be okay.
So, was this the match that you watched, or did you rewatch both of these matches, or did you watch both of these matches? Did you focus on 2 screens? So, or did you find yourself focusing more on one in particular?
The Switzerland, obviously, it was the more entertaining of the 2
by far.
Yeah, and so I tended to focus more on this one than Brazil. Seeing the Brazil lineup, knowing that they really had nothing to play for.
Mm-hmm.
There was nothing that was going to. It was going to be extremely hard for them to not go through,
Right.
It was on. I didn't really pay as much attention to it, but it was there. But yeah, the Serbia Switzerland match, by far the more entertaining of the 2, and so that's where I focused my attention there. Because when you look at that, Switzerland took that lead early on, and then Serbia came firing back, and so it was real interesting to see the dynamic there and to see Switzerland, one of the favorites to come out of this group, having to fight back and and keep that possibility of advancing alive.
Yeah, I agree. I didn't have the option of 2 screens today, so I just had the Switzerland match on. For the most part, I think I tuned to the Brazil Cameroon one once or twice, but then ended up back at Serbia Switzerland, and it was a fun match. It was feisty there towards the end, especially the second time that I saw a ref just getting his ass chewed today, which caught me off guard. They just the emotions were high today for sure, and so Serbia needed a win. Came in, like you said, got the lead back, or went down, then got the lead, and then gave up the lead. And then right there in the early part of the second half, I think the 48th minute, Switzerland, beautiful little back heel flick off a diagonal run. I mean, it was a very nice goal. Probably my favorite team goal of this tournament, other than the United States one. And
how can Richarlison's goal not
I said
be
team
Okay.
goal, not individual goal. This is where we talked about this for the United best goal of the year thing, where you had like a free kick as yours, and I couldn't put a free kick in my top 5 because it's one person doing one great thing,
right?
Instead of proper build up, a few nice touches, and then a good finish. And this one, I mean, it was a simple finish, but it was set up by a beautiful diagonal run and a nice ball in from that right side, and then just one touch back heel, one touch finish, and it went from 40 yards out to in the back of the net in 3 touches, in the blink of an eye, basically. And then Switzerland just held on, annoyed Serbia, got under their skin, but was able to hold on, get second place in this group, and now gets to go face Portugal on Tuesday. And so we'll get to the Portugal match, and I mean, I'm not super high on them either. So that I'm looking forward to that match. I think Switzerland plays a type of ball that can frustrate teams, can kind of drag out these matches a little bit more than they want to. It was you didn't really see that today. I mean, it was kind of back and forth, at least in the first half. But you saw the second half where they buckled down, really frustrated Serbia, controlled the ball, and ended up getting the 3 points there. And so we'll see how Portugal can handle that coming up on Tuesday. Meanwhile, going over to the earlier games in Group H, Uruguay 2, Ghana 0. Uruguay still doesn't make it out, even with the 2-0 win over Ghana, because South Korea gets a late winner against Portugal, putting them through on goal differential. And Uruguay was not happy.
No, they sure weren't.
They were sad. They were angry.
The VAR monitor flopped.
Yeah, they ran the whole gamut of emotions there. And I'm assuming you saw the 2 almost penalties against Uruguay. I think the second one, like at the top corner of the box, was definitely not. I think the first one, the announcers over on Fox were clearly thinking it was going to get turned or called a penalty, and then it was not. But they were also saying that he did not get the ball, and I think he gets a slight touch on the ball, and that's why it ends up not being a penalty. It was an ugly tackle. It wasn't the best tackle. It was probably a pretty dumb decision. But I think the Ghana player gets a little lucky and gets just like a toenail on the ball, and Uruguay can't go through. I could understand Uruguay being upset there, but here's an idea: get a point from your first 2 matches,
right?
And you don't have to worry about this. But here we are.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, of the 2 both of these matches have potential implications for the ending of the group, and Uruguay. I think they also had a goal called back, didn't they? I could be wrong.
I don't remember that one. These 2 matches I was bouncing back and forth quite a bit, since I only had the one screen, and so I didn't see every minute of every match between these 2.
Yeah, I was going back and forth between these as well, and it was just it was one of those matches where I mean both of them. The emotions are running high, tensions are running high. Yeah, it was. There were some really interesting calls, no calls, and I had to explain to you guys know I referee. I had to explain to someone the other night. I was doing a 7v7. And so White had the ball. White player has the ball going, to my right, basically. And he dribbles the ball forward a little bit out of his reach. Player on black steps in, doesn't make contact. White player does not go down, and the white player starts yelling at me, saying, "Oh, he stepped in." I'm like, okay, well, great, that's fine. He stepped in, but he didn't foul you. Similar play later on. Defender steps in, makes a play, gets the ball, but plays in a reckless manner and takes down the attacking player. And the defender's upset because I call a foul. I said, "Well, I got the ball." I said, "Yeah, that's fine, but you played recklessly. So yes, you got the ball, but in the process of doing so, you took out the player. So that's a foul."
So is the first penalty that was missed against Uruguay a penalty then?
Let me go. Let me see if I can pull it up here real quick, just so I can look at that and make sure. Because
in the second one, there it's shoulder to shoulder, and they just kind of get their legs tangled up, and Cavani goes down because that's what Uruguay was doing at that point in time of that game.
Yeah,
I was just trying to get a goal however they could. In the first one, he's behind the defender or behind the attacker, but he throws his right leg around, cuts. He makes contact with the ball before he makes contact with the defender. If he makes contact with the ball, which I think is what was really a question here. And
sorry, I'm watching the highlight package. And so the Ghana penalty call, correct. I hate that run up though.
For the penalty for Ghana.
That Ghana penalty. Like I felt like the player stopped his run up, so that should have been an direct coming out. Yeah. I'm trying to see where the next one is.
It's in the second half. 50th or so minute, probably.
All right, let me see where this first video goes.
Riveting podcast, I know.
It is. I'm sorry. I want to look at this.
No, you gotta see it. Just and with as close as it is, I mean, it definitely need to, just like they did with the VAR. I mean, he went. Mm-hmm. It was one of the first times this tournament though that I've seen the ref go to the monitor and then not change the call.
Yeah,
which surprised me.
Okay, so they don't show anything around the 50th. It goes from like the 46th to like the 70 something minute in the highlight package.
I don't think it was that late, but anyways, we'll move over. I'll see if I can find it on Twitter here. And what was your thoughts on the South Korea Portugal match?
Oh man, here again, I mean, this is a match where you would think that Portugal is going to come out and just walk over South Korea. Yes, South Korea has played well for the most part during this tournament. Not a side that I would have picked to come out of this group, but they've played well. But looking at who Portugal threw out there, you would expect them to play better than what they did. So for me, like, Portugal played way down in this match. They didn't convert, they didn't take advantage of the opportunities, and they gave South Korea, they gave them every opportunity to stay in this match. They didn't shut them down. They didn't close that out. That's, when you get a goal in the 5th minute of a match, like, and again, I know it's so early on, you've still got 85 minutes for that team, because we've talked about it with New Mexico United. Like, you've basically got the entire game to make up for that early goal, But Portugal couldn't capitalize. They couldn't take advantage. They couldn't close out South Korea here. I feel like if they had gotten the second goal, it would have been a completely different story. I don't think Korea comes back from 2-0 down to pick up a win here. So, I mean, Yeah, South Korea. I mean, hats off to them. I mean, they played well today, despite sitting back and playing on the counter. Um, and it worked out. It worked out for them.
Yeah, I had South Korea coming out of this group.
Mhm.
I had Uruguay in them, so I didn't get the group right, but I did have them coming out. I thought with a healthy Son, they could do some damage, and he didn't quite look himself necessarily, but he still was good enough. He was a huge part of the goal that they scored to get the lead there in that game and ended up winning it. It's a corner for Portugal. Ball bounces out. Son makes a run to get on the end of it, pushes it up by himself. Eventually gets surrounded by, I think, 3 Portugal defenders because they gravitate to him because he's that good. And then is able to time his pass perfectly at like the perfect second to the striker, making a brilliant run into the box. Goes through the legs of a defender with the pass, and really makes that play happen. And you see that and you think, okay, this is what South Korea can be. Now, Portugal also, like, I didn't think they were going to come in and wreck South Korea because they've kind of been like Brazil. They've gotten 2 wins, but they haven't looked like incredible in either of those wins. And so again, it's kind of going down to, if they're in any of the other groups besides the Brazil group, so any of the other 6 groups that played before today, if Brazil or Portugal was in any of those groups, they might not have made it out because those groups, the 2 groups that they were in, seemed to be the easier side of the 2 easier groups of all the groups in the World Cup. And so it excuse me, it's going to be interesting to see what they do in the knockout as well. And it's funny because they get, South Korea gets Brazil. So we're going to see how resilient South Korea can be and how ready Brazil is, because it might seem like a walk in the park for Brazil, but I don't think it's going to be. I think it's going to be a tough one, because I think everything from here on out, I think is going to be tough, except for maybe Argentina, Australia. But Australia made it out of that group, and Argentina didn't look great. I mean, they obviously lost to Saudi Arabia, so you just never know.
Yeah, looking at the matchups down here, I mean, Brazil, South Korea. Even with Brazil's issues and their slow starts in these matches, I still feel like Brazil should be heavily favored here. And for me, Brazil stands out here. I mean, they're favored in that match 82% to win. So, according to 538. So I just don't know if South Korea has enough to throw against Brazil, who is better defensively, I think, than Portugal is. I think Portugal has issues at the back. So I think Brazil is going to have South Korea's number there. As impressed as I've been with the South Koreans showing so far.
I mean, that's probably right. In fact, in my picks, that is what I picked. But I don't think it's going to be a walk in the park necessarily. I think it's going to be, a 1-goal match, maybe 2. Maybe Brazil gets like a late cushion while South Korea is trying to push for an equalizer or something like that. But I think it's going to be a tough one, and I'm really looking forward to pretty much all of these matchups. You got time to go through kind of the whole bracket here real quick and see what we're looking at. So we got the top half or the left half, depending on what kind of format you're looking at. But it's Netherlands, USA, Argentina, Australia, Japan, Croatia, Brazil, South Korea. Out of those 8 teams, you can say United States, but then I'd like you to pick somebody else outside of the United States as a dark horse to who can come out of this side of the bracket and go to the final.
All right. So you said top left here. So
the top or the left, depending on what you're looking. Like the one I'm looking at is stacked on top of each other. The other
Mhm.
ones are side by side. So it's the 8 teams, along with the United States there.
Mm. I mean, for me, obviously, I mean, the one that everyone's going to look at is the U.S. I think that's the true dark horse. But
Mhm.
to avoid going with that one, if I had to pick someone, I'm going to say Japan coming out of this next stage, this next round here, the round of 16. While it may not be technically I don't know if it's technically a dark horse because they did win their group. They really came out of nowhere.
Right.
The Samurai Blues just came out of nowhere to take that group by storm. And I feel like this match with Croatia that they've got, this is a very winnable match for Japan.
So can they get by Brazil?
That's where they run into the issue. That's where I'm just looking at this next round here. Like,
Right.
For Japan to get by Brazil, I don't think so.
So you're pulling an Earl and not listening to my question.
No, I'm listening. I'm saying if there, if there is a dark horse, I still think it's Japan, but Brazil is going to be the issue.
Yeah. Well, in Brazil and Argentina, you look at this side of the bracket, and it's like, okay, that theoretically should be the final for this side. It sets up nicely for both of them. Argentina gets an Australia team that a lot of people thought were going to be 2 and done, basically, and yet here they are. And so, and then you get a plucky but young United States team or a kind of mediocre Netherlands team for Argentina. And then Brazil, you get South Korea, and then probably Japan or maybe Croatia. Croatia might be a little tougher just because they've got the experience. They've been there. Luka Modric led that team to second place finish in 2018. So, but I think it still sets up nicely for Brazil and Argentina. But I could see it being a United States team. I could see it being a Croatia or Japan team. I don't really think either of those, Argentina or Brazil, could lose in the first round. But with the way this tournament has gone and the twists and turns that it's had throughout the group stage, who knows, man? Who knows? I could see one of them getting to penalties. And once you get to penalties, who the hell knows? It's a 50-50 shot there for everybody.
Yeah, and that's the thing too with this round. If it's tied at the end of regulation and goes to extra time, and then you have kicks from the penalty mark. That's the correct terminology now. Kicks from the penalty mark.
Okay.
Yeah. The first time I heard that was a couple weeks ago at a youth soccer tournament. They said that the championship games that they were going to be decided after time to be kicks from the mark. So yeah, it's technically called kicks from the penalty mark now. So, but the language in the laws of the game says kicks from the mark. But yeah, I mean, you're right. I don't see Argentina or Brazil losing here, particularly in the first round. But yeah, I mean, there's a real possibility that the entire left side goes chalk all the way through.
It could be. It could. So your pick for Netherlands, USA.
God. I said the other night that this is the better matchup for us compared to Senegal. I still think that. Because Netherlands have come out kind of slow in their matches. They haven't been particularly impressive. They haven't particularly been able to score a lot. They haven't really pressured their opponents. I think we come out of this one, say, either 2-1 or goes to kicks.
Argentina, Australia. I have the States, USA advancing too, by the way.
Yeah. Argentina, Australia. I've got Argentina.
Same here. Japan, Croatia.
At this point, my heart says the Samurai Blues. My head says Croatia, though. I would love to see Japan win this one. I really would. And I think they can. I think they can win this match against Croatia.
So is that your pick?
Yeah.
This one's tough for me. I really like both of these teams.
Mhm.
Croatia was one of my not favorites, as in like I expect them to win, but one of my in my heart, my favorite teams coming into this tournament. I was rooting for them last year against France, or last World Cup against France, and they fell a little short. But at the end of the day, I think I got to go Japan too. If for no other reason than the crying Japan fan when they scored. I don't know if you saw that guy,
Yeah.
but I saw that and was like, I love this guy. Let's go Japan. I'm all in. So I too am going to pick Japan, probably in a shootout or a late winner in either regulation or extra time.
Yeah.
Brazil, South Korea.
Brazil. I think South Korea comes to a screeching halt right here.
And at the end of the day, who comes out of this side and goes to the final?
I gotta go. I gotta say Brazil. Brazil was my favorite coming into this. Brazil is still my favorite. Yeah, I'm sticking with them. I think that they have the best shot of all the teams because Brazil is they're a talented young squad. They're not their average age is a little bit older than the U.S., so they're not like U.S. young.
Right.
But the other teams, they're better than Croatia. I think Croatia's aging out. They're better than Argentina. I think Argentina's aging out. This is more likely going to be Messi's last rodeo here. Harry, what's going on, buddy? Glad to see you. But yeah, to me, Brazil's the favorite coming out of the left side going to the final. They have to fix those early match issues and really find that gear earlier.
Yeah. I think I probably agree with you. In fact, in my little bracket that I filled out today after the group stage, right after the group stages ended, I had Brazil coming out of this side, but they just like we talked about earlier, they haven't fully impressed me, and so I think they're ripe for an upset, depending on how early they find their form. I think if they make it to the semifinal, or maybe even the quarterfinal, if they have a good showing against South Korea, then if they find their form, I think it's kind of over for the rest of the side of the bracket. But we'll just have to see. I honestly think if anybody else besides Brazil does come out of this side, call me a homer. I know, but
it could. I could see us beating Argentina.
I could see us beating Argentina, and then it depends on if Brazil loses before the semifinal, where they would face us. If Brazil's there,
we don't beat Brazil.
I don't think we beat Brazil.
No, we don't beat Brazil.
If Brazil can't find their form and struggles against South Korea and gets knocked out, or say Japan or Croatia knock them out, it would be doable. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it could be a possibility. But at the end of the day, Brazil clearly the heavy favorite on this side. Yeah. To the other side, France, Poland, England, Senegal, Morocco, Spain, Portugal, Switzerland. Is there a dark horse on this side that you can see making the final?
England.
England's not a dark horse. They were like the fourth favorite going into the tournament.
Compared to the other clubs on this side,
I would say they're second to France as far as favorites.
See, I would have them fourth.
Fourth?
I would have England fourth at it coming on this group. I've got France, Spain, Portugal, England, and I'm not big on Portugal either. I think England could be my three here, but to me, they're not the favorite in this. And I don't see. I mean, if they get past Senegal, they have a shot to beat France, but that's gonna be the toughest matchup for England in this side of the bracket. If they can get by France, they're gonna go in. That's gonna be the issue. That's where I'm at, Harry, with that. Like, I think England could lose to Senegal. I think they could. And I said this to my buddy Jason the other day, and I told him, I said,
Jason's from England.
yeah, Jason lives in England. He lives in, I don't know what it says, he lives in Portsmouth.
He lives
Follows
at
it.
1324.
So no, he's very much into it. And so we were talking, and I told him, I said, look, I'm glad we have Netherlands instead of Senegal, because Senegal's creativity and pace is not going to be good for anybody. That's why I prefer to see the Netherlands, because they're a little bit aging. We can move the ball a little bit better against them than we would Senegal. So yeah, Senegal is an issue here for England. Now, if England can get past that, France is going to be the issue. France is their next big test. If they can get past France, England then becomes my favorite to come out of that, because I don't see Senegal getting past France at all. I don't see that happening if they do get past England. Poland obviously not going to get past France. Morocco's not going to come out of.
I don't think anybody's going to get past France, but Morocco is my dark horse for this side of the bracket.
Now they might beat Spain, but that's gonna be tough.
Spain is a very, very young squad, not as young as USA, obviously, but a very young squad. And we saw in their last match against Japan, they are inconsistent. That first half was dominant. I mean, that first half was crazy, but they only had one goal to show for it, and Japan ended up making them pay. And to those of you crying, Harry, I saw you on Twitter saying that it was out.
The ball was not out. I'm sorry.
Even if it was, Japan was coming at them at that point, so that it's still not guaranteed that they weren't going to score anyways, because Japan had to score. So it made me question Spain just a little bit. They could obviously get out of this side of the bracket and be in the final, and I wouldn't be surprised whatsoever. But this Morocco team, they looked really good in the group stages. They fought really hard. They've got a lot of heart. They've got some high-end talent in Ziyech and Hakimi. And I just think that the way they played, the way that they can control that left side of the pitch with Hakimi and Ziyech over there, they can just kind of lock that side of the pitch down and control just the one side. And if they just get a little bit from the other side, a good cross to that side or a good cross away from that side, whatever you want to look at it, they can create quite a bit of chances. And I could see them getting past Spain. And then Portugal, Switzerland, neither of those two teams scare me whatsoever.
No. Portugal has not been terribly impressive.
The fact that you have Portugal above England blows my mind on this side of the bracket.
Well, and so Harry mentioned a couple of these, and one of the biggest reasons why I have Portugal above England is Gareth Southgate. Because Gareth Southgate throws out lineups and makes decisions like he's scared. I mean, look at how England played against the U.S. Look at the system that they put in place. They played scared, and they played to draw. So they didn't play to win. They played to not lose.
Look at the other two matches England played, and compare those to any of the matches that Portugal played.
Iran 6-2. Whatever, and then you've got Mexico in the other, not Mexico. Wales. Again, pretty much a gimme. Like Wales isn't going to beat England, and they're not. But the one match that mattered, Southgate threw out a lineup, and they played to not lose. They didn't.
But
play
that's not
to
the
win.
one that mattered. They already had a win. They already had a +4 goal differential, and they knew they had Wales coming up. That they did not care about that match whatsoever.
No, they really didn't. And the other issue I have with England is Pickford. Now, I love Pickford to death. Pickford is Everton's number one. He is England's number one. Jordan Pickford has issues at the back, though. He does.
You're talking. You're comparing Pickford to a Portugal goalie that almost got pickpocketed in the Ghana match.
No, you're absolutely right. Portugal's biggest issue is their back line and their goalkeeper. Those are the biggest issues for Portugal. That's why I have Switzerland over Portugal. However, I still feel like if you're ranking this side of the bracket, I have Portugal ahead of England because I feel like Portugal is better on the pitch than England is.
I don't know. Maybe I'm letting my Cristiano Ronaldo
Yeah.
colored glasses get in the way here, but I just have not been that impressed with Portugal. And I'm not saying I've been like thoroughly impressed with England, but I mean, a 6-2 win, I don't care if it was Iran. It was an Iran team that we barely squeaked by 1-0. That's not nothing. And then 3-0 against Wales, in a match that they didn't like really need to be that dominant in. Like they could have just got their one goal and been fine, but they squashed the two opponents that they beat in fashions that I was frankly surprised by. So I just, again,
You're not the only one here.
All of this talk is I didn't either. All this talk is kind of mute to me because I think France walks to the final.
I mean, they very easily could. France's path to the final. I mean, their toughest test potentially is going to be Spain. Because England can give them a run, but I think the toughest test, like I said, I think the toughest test though is Spain. Spain is creative. Spain has pace. Spain is good at the back. They're good defensively, and I feel like they can counter what France wants to do in the final third.
So I feel like they can be good at the back, and they can just ticky-tacky you to death.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't always do that.
No.
And so I would actually say, well, so France, right?
Yeah, France, Poland.
England, Senegal.
Mm-hmm.
Toss up. I'm going to say England just because, but I wouldn't be surprised if Senegal beats them. But for the record, I'm going to say England.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've got England in mind. I just, like you said, there's a very real chance that Senegal beats them here.
And then I think we're the same Portugal, Switzerland. I've got Switzerland as well.
Yeah.
But Morocco, Spain, I've got Morocco. And you're way higher on Spain than I am. So I'm assuming you have Spain.
Yeah, I've got Spain coming out of there. And I could the Morocco pick is interesting. I think they surprised a lot of people, and we talked about this today with how they played in the group stages. I feel like Spain. I'm gonna look real quick at Morocco's results.
So Morocco had a 2-1 win over Canada.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on.
0-0 Croatia.
Yeah.
And
then a 2-0 win over Belgium.
Okay. So, I mean, to be completely honest, Belgium is way down. They are. That's been proven throughout the World Cup here. Belgium did not play well at all. And then Canada obviously massively underperformed as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because some people were, I mean, obviously, if you look at Canadian media, they seem to think that Canada should be winning the World Cup this year. But that is an extremely young Canadian side. They are extremely rough, but there's a lot of talent there.
But that the 2-1 scoreline for the Canada match isn't indicative of how Morocco controlled that match. Right. I mean, Canada scored in the second half to make it semi-interesting, but Morocco just dominated that match, especially the first half.
No, absolutely they did, and I think that speaks more to where Canada is at than Morocco, because I think, like I said, Canada they're young, they've got a lot of growth to do before they're competitive. I think 2026 could be an interesting year for Canada in terms of the World Cup that year.
For sure, yeah.
But I just and so I can see where the belief in Morocco is coming from. I can see that. Spain is just on a different level from Belgium, Canada, and and Croatia. I mean, I think Spain Croatia would have been really interesting to see, but I feel like this, like I said, I feel like Spain is better than either of the clubs that failed to get out of Group F there. So that's why I don't think Morocco is going forward.
Yeah. Well, that one's going to be Tuesday, so we got some time before that one actually takes place. So who do you have coming out of this side of the bracket to the final?
France.
Yeah, I think it's definitely France's side of the bracket to win, and honestly, I think it's France's tournament to win. I picked them before the World Cup started. That was before the Benzema injury, but I stuck with them anyways, and they've just looked really good. I know they had a very rotated squad their last match that they lost, but I think when they need to, they're going to turn it on, and we're going to see good things from them the rest of this tournament. So tomorrow we've got Netherlands, USA, and Argentina, Australia. Netherlands, USA at 8:00 a.m. Mountain Time. Australia, Argentina at noon Mountain Time. What are a couple things you're going to be looking for out of these two matches?
Oh man! First thing, U.S. Netherlands. Is Christian Pulisic playing? That's the number one thing I'm looking for. Is he healthy enough to go? Is he able to give us at least 60 minutes? If Pulisic can't go, the U.S. is going to have to figure something out. Berhalter is going to have to figure something out. You can throw Brendan Aronson in there, but he's that's not the same as Christian Pulisic. Tim Weah is going to have to step up. Tyler Adams can't. How's Tyler Adams going to play?
Fantastic.
Exactly.
Tyler Adams is going to be incredible.
I have a lot of faith in Tyler Adams. For the U.S., it's where's the chance creation coming from? Can they create opportunities against this Netherlands side? And that's going to be the biggest thing there for the U.S. For Netherlands, them as well. Can they get on the score sheet? They have not necessarily done very well at doing this. I mean, obviously they scored 2 goals in their first match against Senegal, both of which were in the final, 5 minutes, 6 minutes of regulation and into stoppage time. They've struggled with chance creation as well. That's going to be about who creates the most opportunities and converts on those. That's what I want to see out of that early match. Second match, Argentina, Australia. Lionel Messi and the rest of that Argentina squad, how do they continue the upward trend that we saw in the last 2 matches of the group stage, or do they come back down to earth a little bit? Because I feel like Argentina, we talked about earlier on, Australia, maybe, just maybe, they surprise Argentina here. But it's going to be, can Argentina continue to create and put the ball in dangerous areas for guys like Messi and some of the other attacking options that they have?
Yeah, I think I think you hit the nail on the head with Argentina. It's kind of which one shows up, right? Is it going to be the Saudi Arabia Argentina, or is it going to be their last match Argentina? And I think they're kind of finding form. With this being a crazy World Cup, I can see where somebody be inclined to say Australia might give them a run, but I think this is Argentina's, and I think it's a fairly boring game, honestly. But that's if Messi and Di Maria and them can create those dangerous chances and finish them. But I think they get enough. I think we'll probably see a Messi penalty here. Calling it now. I think somebody gets taken down in the box and Messi takes a penalty kick in regulation, and so I think that one is. I'll watch it, of course, because it's the only game on at that time frame, and it'll be who we play if we win. So I will definitely be watching it. As far as the USA Netherlands match, it's definitely Pulisic's obviously going to be important. If Pulisic can't go, what's next important is Reyna. If Reyna is given the green light there, he's got to have a knock. It's got to be a fitness issue. We all know how talented Gio Reyna is. We all know that when he is fit, he is in the 18 in the starting 11 for Greg Berhalter. There, up until now, there has never been Berhalter and Reyna have a clash. That's never been the case, ever. When he's healthy, he's playing. The fact of the matter is, it's been 18 months that he's been on and off injured, and this is the World Cup. And that top three and that midfield three have been really, really good for this tournament. You can nitpick with the 9, but Reyna's not going to play the 9. Raya would be either taking over for Timothy Weah or Christian Pulisic, or one of those midfield three. And our midfield has been our best attribute. Our best phase of play has been in the midfield with that MMA midfield. So he's not going to replace any of those three in the starting lineup, anyways. And then you're not going to take him off for Pulisic, for as aggravating as Pulisic can be every once in a while. He comes and makes a play like he did to score that goal against Iran, and that's why we have him in there. And then Way has just been super consistent on the other side. So, yes, I love Gio Reyna. I am a huge Dortmund fan, in part because of Gio Reyna. But he's not going to supplant either of any of these positions that he normally would play if he's not 110% healthy. And so I don't want to hear complaining about it anymore, frankly. But if Pulisic is injured and Reyna is fit enough to start, then I think you have kind of almost seamless transition from Christian to Gio, and we can kind of do that without missing a beat. So to me, it's who. What I'm really actually looking at is Jeff Sargent.
Josh Sargent.
Jeff Sargent. Who's the hell is Jeff Sargent?
I don't know.
Anyways, I'll look it up later. Josh Sargent is he healthy enough to go? Because in that Iran match, he was incredible to me. And he picked up a knock there at the end. And so if he can't go, Haji Wright did not look good at the end of that Iran match. So what do we do there? Is it Haji Wright? Is it Jesus Ferreira? Is it Timothy Weah moving there and Aronson coming in for him on that right side? I don't know what we're gonna do there. And so that's almost more important to me than Christian, because I feel like if Reyna is healthy enough to go, 60 minutes, we've got somebody that we can put in there for Pulisic. But if Sargent isn't ready, then I don't know what we're gonna do there. So or Sargent isn't ready, then I don't know what we're gonna do there. So I'm looking at that. I think the back line stays the same.
Is Zimmerman a liability?
I don't think he starts. So
okay. So who do you want to place? Carter Vickers?
Yeah, I think it's the same lineup that we had against Iran. CCV did things that he had the ball at his feet. He was better with the ball at his feet than Zimmerman typically is. I love Walker Zimmerman. I've been a Walker Zimmerman fan since his LAFC days. But with what we've seen so far this tournament, I think Cameron Carter-Vickers is the better option next to Tim Ream. And then you can, if you get a lead, you can do what you did against Iran. You can bring Zimmerman on as a fifth or as a third center back or something like that. And he can, clear those headers like he did against Iran and play just fine there. But no, I think it's the same lineup, barring health, that we saw against Iran.
Okay, I was curious because he Zimmerman, obviously he gave up the penalty in the first match, and then he looked kind of shaky in match number 2. And Cameron Carter-Vickers, I understand the reasoning that Berhalter brought him in against Iran there in the last match, but he too looked shaky at times. So that's why I was curious about that.
He looked it there towards the end, right at the beginning, and then Tyler Adams ripped him a new one. Because that's what captains do in this stage. And after that, I thought he played really well, and things got a little shaky at the end, but things were shaky at the end for everybody because Iran had so much pressure on us. But at the end of the day, I thought he distributed the ball really well, was solid enough at that back line. Nobody except for Cody Gakpo scares me for the Netherlands as far as goal scoring is concerned, and I think Cameron Carter-Vickers and Tim Ream, they're not the fastest center backs, but this Netherlands team isn't necessarily one to try to get in behind with a bunch of speed. So I think they'll be just fine, and that's who I would have back there is the same back four that we had against Iran, same midfield against Iran, and as long as everybody's healthy, the same front three. I just don't think that front three is going to be the same because I think either Pulisic or Sargent's going to be out, and we'll have to see what Berhalter does there. And that's the only thing that really concerns me about this match.
All right. Yeah, it's definitely going to be a lot of fun to watch. New Mexico United's having a watch party over at M2Cheese tomorrow morning. I know David had said something in the chat yesterday. See if you guys are going to make it. I've got a sick kid, so I'm not going to be able to make it. Or, my son was running a fever of 102 last night, so we're not going anywhere.
Yeah, I work tomorrow and live 2.5 hours away, so just can't make that work. But I will be watching. I think I'm going to plan my lunch for 9:00 in the morning.
There you go.
So I can come home and at least finish the match on the TV instead of watching on my phone. So I'm looking forward to it, and hopefully we can come away with the win and advance to the quarterfinals.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to that. 2 interesting matches tomorrow. Man, I can't wait. This has been a fantastic, week and a half of soccer, and we got another 2.5 weeks left to go. So,
So we got 4 days in a row still with the round of 16. Then we do get a couple days off between that and the quarterfinals, and then a couple days off for the quarterfinals, and then so on and so forth. But so still 4 more days of this. What has it been? 8 days. 12 days
12 days
12 days in a row with 4 more, so 16 days total in a row of at least 2 soccer matches per day, and I cannot wait. Do you want to do a pod tomorrow night?
Yeah, I can do one tomorrow night. I say we do one tomorrow night either way.
Yeah, I don't know if you caught the whole podcast last night, but I'm down for doing one every night that there's soccer,
Yeah, that's fine with me. I don't have anything going on the next few nights.
So and if there's a night that you can't go or I can't go or whatever, we'll see if Seth can or Earl can arise from the dead and go ahead and take over one of those. But we can talk about that off air. Any last thoughts about today's matches going forward? Anything at all?
Man, I'll be honest. Like especially these last 2 days, has been like this huge emotional roller coaster. Watching these teams get in and play and fight for their lives, and like you see the highlights. The highlight today of the South Korean players and fans, watching on their phones and trying to get the update from the Uruguay match to see if they went through, and just that celebration. Like, it's the beautiful game, man. It really is. This has been so much fun these past few days.
Yeah, when Son threw his mask off and collapsed to the turf after they won, not after they advanced, but after they won, you just really saw. I mean, he's a guy that plays in the Premier League, plays for Tottenham, tied with Mo Salah last year for the Golden Boot, and I've never seen him that emotional because it's something that country does differently than club. And it just, when you play for your country, it just draws out emotions that playing for your club, while definitely meaningful, just doesn't quite tug at the heartstrings the same way it does when you play for your country. And so it means so much to these players. And I think you really saw the emotions the last 2 days. I mean, you saw Uruguay just going at the referee at the end of the match. You saw same in the Serbia-Switzerland match. You saw Serbia players going at Switzerland players, vice versa. You had Luis Suarez crying on the bench after he'd been subbed out when they got eliminated, which I think made America happy, or made the world happy, maybe. And so you see things in this tournament that you just don't see any other time of year. Even the Euros, even Gold Cup, Nations Cup. I mean, those mean a lot, but to see the emotion playing for the World Cup here has been kind of eye-opening for me. I've always kind of seen it, but never as closely as we've paid attention to it this year. So very, very, very fun to watch. Very entertaining, very emotional, even for a neutral like me. Like when Japan, when I saw that Japan fan crying after they took the lead yesterday, you feel things that you don't normally feel when soccer's being played, even though soccer's a very high emotion sport anyways. So I can't wait for tomorrow. I can't wait to see what the USA does. I'm not going to cry if we advance. I'm also not going to cry if we lose, but I'm still excited for it, and hope that everybody catches the game. If you're in Albuquerque, go to Mtucci's for the watch party for United. Say hi to all the black and yellow faithful over there that make it out for that. And until next week, unless you got something else, Seth, somos unidos.